And it's how it's got to do with my own relationship with my own father, my relationship with my children. I have I have 4 children. I have 2 daughters, and it's also to do with my stepsister who died of a heroin overdose when she was 20, and I made it with her in mind. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think those characters should be. Yes, I did. I didn't want to judge them. I wanted to just watch them deal with, like early on in the film when James' character cries in the garage, he sobs. I didn't even want that to be something that you cried with him. You know, I wanted to just be your remote, and I wanted us to just see that this man was in despair. But actually, for me, that was a kind of birth, that scene, where it's almost the birth of feeling for him. So I thought it was a film about, you know, dealing with all of these terrible things, but yeah, you can't judge people like that. I mean, they go through that, how can you judge? But I'm glad you asked that question, it's a good question. My wife is French, and which means nothing, really, but her mother, well, her brother died of, my brother-in-law died of cancer. He was my age. He died of lymphoma 10 years ago now, and her mother has had cancer and still has cancer, still struggling with cancer. Now for 25 years she's been struggling with cancer. So her life has been about this disease. But she lost her son, her eldest son, and that woman and that marriage, and the week that her son was diagnosed with cancer, my wife's father disappeared at sea and has never returned. So it's really awful, tragic things. But that mother, who's called Claire, living now in recovery, like going through chemotherapy in Paris right now, is like that, the woman in the film. And that marriage was like that. And very still, very difficult, very painful, very, very cold. And so I made this film as a result of all these things that in my own life I've been going through and seeing. But again, as a father. Do you have children?
I have a daughter, yes.
Yeah, I imagine. I don't know that you can imagine it. It's something that I tried as a director to try and investigate those feelings in myself, and that's difficult. He played Tony Soprano. For those of you who don't, Tony Soprano was a mafia. Do you all know the Sopranos? Right. Because I was in an Italian restaurant last night, and the waiter, who's Italian, didn't know who he was. I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, I was really nervous about it, yes. And James had read the script and loved the script. I actually was talking to another actor, and I was in New York, and James asked for a meeting, so we had an espresso. And he walked in, sat down, big guy, you know, big, sit down. I'm looking at him and thinking, my God, that's the character. Because he's closer to the person he plays in this film than he is to Tony Soprano. He's a lovely, loving, damaged, beautiful person. And if I was gay, I'd probably go for him. You know, when you I mean, I'm sort of. She was asking if it was hard to keep distance, or was I able to keep my distance from this thing emotionally? But this is the task of a director, I think, is that you have to be discerning, and you do have to. I'll use a metaphor. You can't get in the water with the actors, you know, because you can't judge it then. So if you're standing by the camera and you're watching performance, this is not a rule, and very young, inexperienced director. Well, not that young, but relatively inexperienced. But to me, you can't be in it with the actors. You have to be able to stand back like a conductor. But in order to discern the feeling and to know that something is authentic, I believe you have to have done the investigation yourself. Because you can't ask someone to drink, like, you can't ask someone to take a spoonful of very hot soup unless you yourself have done it, you know what I mean? That makes sense. It's like, you have to have at least done the work so that you can recognise the authenticity of a performance. And that's your responsibility as a director, I think, because you have to be supportive. So, you know, it's difficult. I mean, it was difficult, but it's really good fun. I didn't write it. There's a guy called Ken Hickson wrote it. It's his. Actually, it is his story. So he's from Indianapolis. He has a few children. Has an autistic daughter, and struggled with that. So that's a big part of in that film. There's a lot of that in there. And he was very generous. He allowed me to direct his words. I wish he was here. He's amazing. But actually, it started with him. My dad is like, my dad's Ridley, so I showed him the film, he fell asleep the first time I showed it, and then the second time I showed it to him, he talked all the way through it. Well, do this, do more music here, and why didn't you move the camera? There should be more wide shots, you know, like. So, and Tony's my uncle and hasn't seen it. Has he? He hasn't seen it. I don't think so. But they were producers. They did fuck all. No, they're very supportive. My dad is... well, I mean, this sounds really... how do I say this? I'm very proud to have my father as my father, and that's a pretty cool family to come from, and my uncle is the best uncle of anybody's uncle in the world, in my opinion. But no, I'm very lucky, and I was brought up in the filmmaking environment, and my father has a very strong work ethic, and we were made to work. And it was great. He's great. I mean, he's a great producer, but they keep their distance.